Using pivot tables and pivot charts, Uma has now created a visually appealing and responsive report. The problem is she doesn't want to have to keep adjusting it to respond to other people's queries. She would prefer that they could come in and query the report themselves to get the answers they need when they need them. One tool that can help with this is slicers. Slicers are really just another way of filtering data, but they are incredibly easy to use. Now we're basically carrying on with the workbook we had last time. I've just moved things around a little bit so we've got more space, and I've also removed the report filter field from our regional pivot, and that's because we're rather going to use a slicer to do the filtering. Now to add a slicer, click in the pivot table or pivot chart that you want to filter. Come up to your Pivot Table Tools Analyze tab or your Chart Analyze tab and click Insert Slicer in the filter group. You can add as many slices as you have fields in your data, but we're just going to go for 3. So I'm going to select State, Customer Type and Account Manager and then click OK. My 3 slices have been added to my worksheet and my pivot chart fields have been hidden. And that's one of the benefits of slices. We don't have those fields taking up half our screen. Let's just move these so we can see them all. Now to move a slice is much like moving a chart. It's just a click and drag. I'm going to do it from the top of the window though, so I don't accidentally click on any of the values underneath. Okay, I can see them all a little bit more clearly now. With one of your slices still selected, have a look in your ribbon and you will see that we have a Slicer Tools ribbon. And this gives us all our tools for working with slices. On the right hand side are a whole selection of tools just for organizing and resizing them. So for example, I'm going to use my Control key and click on all 3. And then I'm going to come up to my size group and I'm going to change the height to be 5 centimeters. And you can just type 5 and press enter. I would also like them all to be nicely lined up. So I'm going to come to my Align tool and click Align Top. And if you want to get really fancy, you can come to your line and you can space them evenly. So I'm going to distribute horizontally. And this just allows us to quickly organize our slices so they look really good. I'm going to click back on my State Slicer. Also available on the Slicer tools are some styles, very similar to the ones we've seen previously. And if I click the drop down, I get a few more. And I'm just going to go and add some nice styling to each of my slices so that they're distinctive and in keeping with the rest of the worksheet. Great, my slices are looking great, but now I need to actually start using them. Let's say, for example, I only wanted to see my sales for New South Wales. If I come to my State Slicer and click on New South Wales, it has now filtered both my table and my chart. To clear that filter, come to the top right-hand corner of the slicer and click the Clear Filter button. Really easy. Let's say I wanted to select 2 values. So Uma would like to see my total sales for consumer and home office customers. So I'm going to click on Consumer, hold my Control key down and click Home Office. I'm now seeing just the data for those 2 options. Let's clear that one as well. If you want to see a large group of values that are all next to each other, so let's say, for example, I want to see the date of the first 5 account managers, click on the first one, hold your Shift key down and click on the last one. And now I'm seeing the sales for my first 5 managers. So really easy to use. I'm going to clear that for a moment. Now, one of the best things about slices is it has a unique feature that other filters don't offer. You can actually connect slices to multiple pivots. So what I'm going to do is connect my account manager not just to my regional pivot, but to my customer type pivot as well. Select the slicer you want to connect, come up to your slicer options and come to Report Connections. Now if I scroll to the bottom, you'll see it is already connected to my regional pivot, but I now would like to connect it to my pivot 1 on my main pivots sheet. And you see why it's quite a good idea to name your pivots. But we know that's the right one, so we're going to select it and say OK. Now the next time Anya needs to see her data, she can open this workbook, click on her own name, and both charts are now showing her data. When she's done, she can clear the filter. So we've now seen that by using a combination of pivot tables, pivot charts and slices, we can create very powerful and interactive visual reports and dashboards that users who have very little knowledge of pivot tables can still use to get the data and trends that they need.